You don't get something for nothing very often these days. Things aren't free. Except with a slightly older version of a Tesla Model S here, you do get free supercharging. And in a day where fuel, petrol, diesel is now £2 a litre, and don't get me wrong, electricity has gone up as well, free supercharging cars could be an interesting prospect, couldn't they? However, there's some rules with that, and they do have to be an older Tesla Model S, and there's a few Model X as well in the UK which do have free supercharging. So I'll explain the rules which cars do and don't in a minute in this video. But what we've got here is two cars that do. It does mean we've got a 2014 car and a late 2015 car. These cars both have free supercharging. This got nearly 8 years old, over 100,000 miles on it. This one's got 50,000 miles on it. So what I want to do here today is I've got a chance to drive both these cars, and I can tell you, how are these cars in the modern world? They're not the latest Teslas out there, but what are they like in today's world? Are they still viable? Are they still good? Are they still efficient? How far can they really go? In this video, we're about to explain all of that stuff. So stay tuned. I'm Richard Simons. This is RSCV, and we're going to test these two cars, 70D, 85D. 85. Okay, got to go. Okay, but before we get into comparing these two cars side by side, let's just rewind it back to now, which is the beginning of the day. And we're just heading up the motorway to collect that s70d. It's about 100 miles away from base. So we're heading up the motorway now, and I'm currently in our s85, which we've had for, I think, a bit over 2 years now. And this car's got over 100,000 miles. It's just coming up to 102,000 miles to be precise. And it's been great. It's been a good car. Now I'm going to do some more videos very soon on this car because it has now gone over 100,000 miles. So I'm going to do videos about what we've done to maintain it and repair it and service it and all that kind of stuff. That'll be another video. So if you're interested to see that, make sure you stay subscribed. That'll be coming fairly soon. But this s85 has been great. It's got the 85 kilowatt hour battery pack. It's a rear wheel drive only car, so not an 85D, just an s85. And it's one of the first cars in the UK. It's a 2014 car. So it's nearly 8 years old now. And with over 100,000 miles, I'm sitting in it now, and it drives really well. It's absolutely fine. It's quiet, it's comfortable, it's quite well specified. I've got air suspension, high fidelity sound, which is still one of the best sound systems of a car, isn't it, Gens?
It's very good.
It's very good. I don't have the sunroof in this car, and I don't have the cameras for autopilot, so I've just got cruise control. In the UK, the cars with cameras and autopilot ability didn't come until very late in 2014, so this is before all that. But it's been a brilliant car to us. And the strange thing is, I bought this over 2 years ago with 65,000 miles, and it's worth more today than it was then. It's cost me nothing. In fact, it's probably still profitable if I were to sell this car. But because we use it a lot and we travel up and down the country collecting cars, remember, this is just in the course of what we do day to day. The free supercharging is obviously a bit of a bonus. We can cover some miles, and this car does that brilliantly. So I've actually left home with just 50% state of charge because we're going to be stopping in a little bit for breakfast, as we normally do after we've been on the road for an hour or two, have a coffee, have something to eat, and I'll just stop where we can plug and charge up because it's free. Why wouldn't you? If I was travelling on a busier day, especially anything like a bank holiday weekend, I would charge it from full for home, pay for it. It doesn't cost too much even at home. But home electricity for me is 28 pence per kilowatt hour, so it's up there with the higher price bracket at the moment. So let's make use of this free charging. But this car still is a valid car today. It's comfortable, it's smooth. And every time I drive it, I'm always reminded that just the rear-wheel drive Model S is actually a lovely thing. It's got just that kind of lighter front end. It just drives very nicely. I like it. We're right on the south coast of the country, remember, so we don't tend to get snow. The four-wheel drive doesn't really matter too much, and the purity of the rear-wheel drive is actually a thing that I really like. So if you've got a rear-wheel drive Model S, especially an older one, and you still enjoy that car, yeah, let me know in the comments below, because I'm always interested to read stories of people that have got these older cars and covered higher mileages. And I know there's a chap in Germany that's covered over 1 million kilometers now in his, I think this is a P85. I had one of them for a while. I love that as well. So yes, this s85 is still a great car, and we use it every day. So I've been in the car for 2 hours now, and it's time for a coffee, toilet, quick break. We don't need to charge yet, but there's plenty of availability of chargers here, so we may as well plug in, use our free charging whilst we're here. Would you look at that black car? Let's get that off as quick as we can. Okay, so we're just getting back in the car now. Again, so just unplugging it, and we've been stopped for 32 minutes, and we've gone from 23% to 67%. In that time, we added 34 kilowatt hours of juice. So one thing you do find with the older cars is that they do charge a little bit slower. We've used quite a lot of supercharging on this Model S, so it just doesn't have the charging speeds of the Model 3s or Model Ys, for example. But nonetheless, it's free, and all that was us having breakfast and coffee. Against. So what have we got? Let's get going, carry on the rest of the journey and pick up that S70. Okay, so I've just bought this s70d as a car that we can put in the showroom for stock. I think the free Supercharger cars are as desirable as ever. They're holding the value well though, so you still have to pay good money for them. Right, what have we got? So I'm going to drive these two cars in convoy now at the same speed, same time, same roads and that sort of stuff. So it'd be interesting to see the efficiency. 70D dual motor versus the rear wheel drive 85 there. We've got slightly different states of charge now, 69%, 52% on the 85. But let's just get the efficiency comparison between the two. So I'm resetting a trip now, and then we're going to head about 100 miles and charge at probably the Portsmouth Superchargers, I think, on the way back. And then we can also compare a bit of the charging speed between the two. Got to bear in mind with the charging speed that S85 has got over 100,000 miles in it. This car here has got, so a quick check, 47,666 as I sit in it now. So younger, less charges on this battery could favour slightly faster charging speeds, in fact. But from this run, we can also then gauge what the pro rata kind of 100% range would be in the real world in these cars today. It's nice and warm. It's 24 degrees Celsius outside. We're going to drive realistic speed, 70 miles per hour speed limit. So not trying for efficiency, but just driving at the speed limit. And let's see what we get. So this reminds me a bit of my first Tesla that I bought, my first ever new car in 2015, and that was an S70. And back in 2015, my S70, I remember, was £55,000, and the prices then went up over the years, and the batteries got bigger and such like. But I had my S70 for a couple of years, and I loved it. It was great. It was a brilliant car, and it took me all over the country. Even back in 2015, 2016, we did camping trips in Cornwall with the family, and it really got us around. Obviously then the supercharging network was in its earlier days, so we didn't have as many chargers as we do now, and but it was good, it was absolutely fine, and it really did convince me that electric cars were absolutely the way forward, and they were vastly cheaper to run, they were tax efficient, and we just enjoyed it. Me as a car enthusiast, I still enjoyed how it was to drive, even coming from cars like BMW M5s and such like before. So that really converted me to electric, and of course ever since then I've been buying and selling Teslas. I've had literally thousands of them since. So it really changed my sort of path and what I did with my business and such like. So yeah, it's been quite a ride ever since. We sell lots of Teslas today, we obviously know them very well, but there's still the market for cars like this. So yes, it's an earlier car. This is from late 2015. It's a 65 plate. I can't remember the exact registration date, but it's either late 2015 or maybe the February 2016, but it's still got under 50,000 miles. It's got air suspension. It's got autopilot hardware, autopilot 1 hardware, but it's not actually been purchased on this car, so I don't actually have that available to use, just cruise control. And the key thing with this is it does have free supercharging. So what cars come with free supercharging? Let me try and explain. I still see this debate going on all the times. I see cars falsely advertised with free supercharging, so I'm going to explain it here. Right, the cars that have free supercharging, effectively the car from new had to be ordered before the end of 2016. They actually then extended that into January, but let's say the end of 2016. So if you ordered the car in February or March 2017, it wouldn't have it. That was the deal. You had free supercharging as an incentive to buy Teslas then, and it worked, especially if you're doing a bit of mileage, you get free fuel. So any of those earlier cars, 2014, 2015 and 2016 cars, would have had free supercharging that transfers between owners. However, so then you've got cars after 2017 or ordered in 2017 which just don't, they're just too new. So that includes all Model S 100Ds, in the UK at least. There's a few P100Ds from very early 2017 when they just arrived that do have it. There's a few Model X90Ds that do have it. There's not many X's at all. But a Tesla Model S or X from mid-2017 just won't have free supercharging. Now the confusing bit here is that often the first owner had free supercharging, or even if they bought it used, I think there's a time when Tesla gave that owner some free supercharging, but it won't transfer to the next keeper. You also will not have free supercharging if the car is an earlier car that originally had it but has since been resold as a Tesla approved used car. So you could have a 2016 car, but in 2019 Tesla sold it as an approved used car. They stripped the free supercharging entitlement off of the cars. So there are some older cars that don't have it. Don't just assume that the earlier cars have free supercharging, because they may not do. However, if it's passed between private hands or between dealers who are not Tesla, so independent dealers like ourselves, the free supercharging can carry over. And that is, of course, nice to have. We got to the point last year where it didn't really matter so much. I mean, supercharging wasn't that expensive anyway, so, you know, do you want an older car with it, even if you're going to use it occasionally? Yeah, it was down to the buyer. But as the cost for supercharging and rapid charging and home charging has all gone up over the recent months especially, it's of course more and more important to people that are looking to keep a car at low cost, you know, low running costs. And someone who's spending £200, £300, £400 a month on fuel can find themselves saving a lot of money by buying one of these cars. So I've been driving it for a little while now. So how does this S70 drive with, you know, considering it's a few years old now, 50,000 miles? Again, absolutely fine. It's got air suspension like the s85 does, so it's nice and smooth. Even the non-air suspension cars are very smooth, very refined cruisers. My first one didn't have air suspension, it was never an issue. I always found it very comfortable. They're more comfortable than the Model 3s and Model Ys, it has to be said, air or no air. They're very good, refined cruisers. I'm sitting here now, the air conditioning's all good. Can't hear any particular wind noise from anything. There's no squeaks, no rattles, so yeah, they seem to hold up pretty well to a bit of age and mileage, to be honest. This one doesn't have MCU2, it's got the original MCU1, so when you interact with the screen or wiggle the map around or load a navigation address, it doesn't load quite as quick as our car, which we've modified with the MCU2, but it's fine, you can modify it if you want to. And one thing these two cars have as well is free premium connectivity. Again, just because of the age of the cars, you used to get free premium connectivity. You have to pay £10 a month for that now. But this will have free premium connectivity, so you do get your Spotify and satellite mapping all included without having to pay anything monthly for that as well, like you do with any of the newer Model S's, X's, 3s or Ys. So that's nice to have as well. I mean, if it's free, we'll take it, right? It's all about free, this video, isn't it? Free. Except the cost of the cars, but you consider that a nice Audi or BMW wouldn't be dissimilar money, and yet costs more to run and service and maintain and tax, all that kind of stuff. This is why these are a pretty compelling car these days, even in the modern world, I think. Which one do you think is going to be quicker? They're both pretty quick cars, but you know, what do you reckon? Dual motors, smaller battery. In theory, this one probably. I can't remember the numbers. You got less than 30% battery, I got 47%. I think dual motors this. I can't remember the original numbers. We should put them down here somewhere, but you go in front of me, and then when there's a clear gap, accelerate out, and I'll see if I can keep up with you. Should be able to. Oh, they're identical. Literally couldn't be more identical if you tried. There we go. I mean, maybe if that had more battery, it's going to be different, but dual motors compared to single motor, in theory, I've got the advantage, 2 motors and more charge, so, but let's just call them identical for performance. Okay, so just taking some first numbers then from that side-by-side drive, and got some quite interesting results here, I think. I recorded 75.5 miles covered, the 85 recorded 75.7 miles covered, so pretty similar, slight discrepancy, maybe tyre thickness difference, something like that. I averaged 256 watt hours per mile, so very nearly 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which I think for a car this size and a few years old is pretty reasonable. The rear-wheel drive only, 85, he averaged 258 watt hours per mile, so similar efficiency, ever so slightly different. Okay, maybe it's true, a little bit of extra regen off that second motor just helps slightly, but we're talking tiny numbers. I use 19.3 kilowatt hours of energy, 19.6 kilowatt hours of energy on the 85. So really very, very similar numbers. And then we've been sitting here doing some calculations and working out based on the percentage of use. So I recorded 29% battery use, the 85 recorded 30% battery use, so probably round in, so both almost 30%. But extrapolate that out for the mileage we covered for the battery percentage used, gives this a range, if you went 100% to zero, in theory, over 250 miles, 260 miles in fact. I'm very impressed with that. The 85, again, percentage used for the distance covered, basically the same, just 250 odd miles, which I think is also pretty good. But what we're finding out here is that the 85, of course, bigger battery pack, it would have had about probably 75 kilowatt hours usable new. 8 years later, over 100,000 miles, and a fair bit of supercharging in that time, because remember the word of the day, it's free. Perhaps that's got battery degradation down to about 65 kilowatt hours. This car here, with 47,750 miles on the clock and hasn't had much supercharging, seems to have a usable capacity also, for pro rata all out, of about 65 kilowatt hours, which probably would have been pretty similar to when it was new. So maybe that's just a difference with battery degradation, age, mileage and such like. So yeah, there's a bit of that. The older cars obviously perhaps suffered a bit there, but you know, within all that, what we have found is that although these cars are a few years old, they're still capable in warm weather, driven sensibly. Remember, we weren't really trying. We were at the motorway speed limit, and there's plenty of hills coming down the A3. Anyone who does a journey knows that. Of pretty good efficiency, you know, nearly 4 miles per kilowatt hour and 250 miles of range. That would put to shame a lot of new EVs even today for something like 30, 35, up to £40,000. So in fact, you know, we have to do a side by side, but that's more than the real world range test of the BMW i4 M50 we tested the other day. So I don't think they're doing too bad. Okay, in terms of charging speed, we'll get some numbers out in a minute, and then we'll just unplug and we'll just do the last leg of the journey back to our base. And so again, we can kind of gauge the same, see how much we use and see if we get the same results and see how consistent that is. For now, yeah, we'll just unplug in a minute and head off. Okay, just now finished the charging. So we're both at 75% of the battery, so we're at the same state of charge for this last kind of 50 odd mile leg of the journey back to our offices along the south coast here on this beautiful day, 23, 24 degrees Celsius. So really is a nice day. I've got the water of Portsmouth just over here. Okay, how do they do for charging speeds in comparison? Well, we arrive with different states of charge, so it's a bit hard to kind of head-to-head compare them, but at the same states of charge, they're roughly speaking about the same charging speed. The Tesla 85 was charging over 100 kilowatts initially, but that quickly ramps down, and the same with this is about 100, and it quickly ramps down. So they had a pretty similar profile. And what we did is, within just under 30 minutes, I added about 35% to this 70D. We were 40 minutes to get 57% added to the 85, so that we both got the same charge level. Just the way it is, we didn't have time to kind of reset them and then do the journey, then do the same thing again. We just don't have the time for that today. Remember, we're doing our day job here as well, and we want to get back to the office. But what would be interesting here is that we can do this last bit of journey again in convoy and see again if the results are the same. We get consistent results, that their efficiency was really very similar. Maybe the 70D is proving slightly more efficient, but there's not really anything in it. So just waiting for traffic to clear. I'm going to pick it back up. So again, we're driving at speed limits, which I'm just waiting to get up to 70 miles an hour, coming up to now. Now, we are not using range mode. We actually use range mode on that last bit of the journey, which can just help with the amount of power the heat and aircon uses. So this time we're not going to use that. And we're just leaving the suspension in their standard height. As before, they could go to low, and that can help a little tiny bit with efficiency, less drag when the car's lower. This time we're just going to leave them in standard, absolute standard, just drive at the speed limit. Let's see what we get. Okay, we just pulled up. How's this for consistent results, huh? So, since that last charge, 256 watt hours per mile. Since we reset early in the day, 256 watt hours per mile. So, very, very nearly 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which I think is pretty reasonable. So that was 20% of the battery used for the 49.6 miles. That would equate to a real world range of 248 miles on 100%. Now, again, so just pulled up there. Let's go and see his result. So you've got 56% of the battery left. I've got 55% of the battery. So since last charge, 270 watt hours per mile.
I was struggling to get efficiency. compared to what we did
mine was
before.
initially, just as we come through the forest, it dropped down.
Yeah, I was struggling quite a bit to get it down, and eventually came down. But
Mine was 256, more efficient.
256.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, so, more efficient, but I've got 55% of battery, so, yeah, these results will tend to show that there's still a bit more usable capacity in this than that one would have. Probably, you know, they're close, but probably just with rounding earlier, they were looked at very even. So, there we go. Not bad comparison. What that I worked out on that car with that on that journey, prorated out 248 miles of real world range. Then 100%. I mean, you've got 1% extra battery, so but slightly less efficient. So yeah, probably is a bit more usable in that still, but only by a very small amount, and also about 250 mile range, which for these cars, given their age, I don't think it's bad at all, is it? Good. To be fair. And the interesting thing with this Model S, 55% battery, I left home with 50% battery this morning, so we've got back with more battery than we left this morning, and we haven't spent anything on fuel. So okay, there's a bit of stoppage time, so we made use of that, had breakfast and coffee, half an hour. We stopped again, which we didn't need to do, and that was actually about 40-minute top up on that one, in which case at the time we were doing that we did some filming, working some numbers out, but you could easily do some messages, working laptop, working Facebook. So yes, some stoppage time, but it's free, so I think, you know, it makes it worthwhile. Now I wouldn't sit and block a charge if it was busy, bank holidays and stuff like that. I would charge fully at home, but I know those charger locations well. I know when they're busy and when they're not busy, so I think making use of that perk that you get with these cars is perfectly fine. So I can see people already now commenting that, well, I don't want to stop and charge and that kind of stuff. I've got a question. I'd like to do a survey at a petrol station one day. You spend 10 minutes standing there filling up your car, and now it costs over £100 even for an average family car. Bigger cars, fast luxury cars are now 120, 30, 150 pounds even. If you said to somebody, would you stand there, would you stop here for say 40 minutes? But your charge would be free, or your fuel would be free. And by the way, you don't have to stand at the pump for 40 minutes, but let's go, yeah, sit down, have a coffee, answer some of your emails, save you doing it when you get home, that kind of thing. But you stop for 40 minutes, but you get it for free. What would you do? I think you'd probably take the free one, wouldn't you? So would I. There's always something we can do these days. There's social media, we're always busy with messages and emails and calls for work and that kind of thing. So I think that would probably answer a lot of the questions, and you can see why these cars are still desirable, because they're lovely cars to spend, you know, a bit of time in. We've spent quite a few hours and a couple hundred miles in these today, and they've proven to be absolutely brilliant. So there we go. I think we call it a wrap for that one. We'll see you on the next video. Hey everyone, thanks for watching our videos. If you like our content and want to see more, don't forget to not only subscribe, but also hit the bell icon for notifications so you don't miss any new videos as they're uploaded. Plus, we're also on Instagram. Just look up R Simons or RSEV. We're on Facebook and Twitter. So lots of news, stories and things as we go on each one of those channels.